stories. We are going to be interviewing author Clifford Ennis, Magic in a Bottle, which is the Arnie Esther story, which all started right here at Marco Vineyard. Hi everyone, it's Out and About with AJ. I am very excited today because we are talking about the book Magic in a Bottle. It's the untold story of our local hero Arnie Esther and Marco Vineyard. And what's very exciting about this is that we have Clifford Ennis with us, who is the author of this book. Welcome. So my first question normally to folks is, how did you become an author? But this is kind of your first shot at being an author. So how did you decide you were going to tell the story?
The story's interesting because it was really more why did I want to do it than how. Being a first-time author, it's publishing houses don't look at you. I mean, it's just a reality. So the beauty is being self-published is you can get out there the first time. What drove me to doing the book was I grew up in the Finger Lakes, spent my summers on Cuca Lake, so I knew Dr. Frank's wines, as I tell people, I probably had it in my baby bottle. That wasn't the truth, but you know, Riesling is very popular, obviously, up there and what it is today. When I was younger, I struggled with English, and so it was kind of, people are telling you, you know, you really can't write very well. And it was always a dream of mine or a bucket list you could call it, because I always looked up to authors because I like to read. And I thought those were the all-stars. And I thought, geez, I'd love to be one of those. Never thought I could. But over the years, I got more confidence. I took extra courses in English when I was in graduate school. I had my advisor, thank him to this day, Dr. Tom Belanger, for forcing me to go back and take freshman English when I was a graduate student, but it really paid off. So really that drive to want to be an author, and then I fell in love with wine. I was obviously growing up in that region, and so when we moved to Ohio, it's been about 8 years now, wherever we move, I'm interested in learning about the wines of that region. And so that kind of started the process. I knew I wanted to write a book about wine. I stumbled on to Arnie Esther and Marco Vineyard through some friends at tastings, and that kind of led one thing to another. And then ultimately, when I saw the connection of Arnie to Dr. Frank, he being a cooperator, as Dr. Frank called him, or what we would say a student of Dr. Frank's, that kind of sold me that, you know, maybe I need to write about him in this region up here because they're doing a lot of good stuff with vinifera wines.
Awesome. So in our last week of Imagine Your Story, we have two really cool stories here. We have Magic in a Bottle, but also your story as how you became an author, which is fantastic. I love it.
Thank you.
We know then that you decided against the odds to become an author. What made you decide that this was going to be the book that you wrote?
That's a good question, because it really started out with the original concept I had, having done some research, was I couldn't find a lot that was written about Ohio wineries in general. And of course my interest in vinifera grapes. And then when I stumbled upon the region up here, which is basically east of Cleveland out to Conneaut, that's really in the state of Ohio where they're growing vinifera grapes such as Chardonnay, Pinot Gris, Pinot Noir, Riesling, and some others. I ended up getting a coach, being a first-time author, and it just so happens the guy's name is Tom Pilecki, and he's written a number of wine books in the Finger Lakes region of New York. So I was able to get a hold of Tom. It's a little bit of work, but I did find him, and he offered graciously to be my coach. So when I convinced Arnie of being part of the book, because originally it was going to be about the region, I met Tom out in little town of Hammondsport there, the Village Tavern, and we had dinner. And so he said, well, you know, tell me the stories of these people you want to write about. So the first one I thought, which was the most important, was Arnie's. His connection with Dr. Frank, being a student of his. And as I went and started to tell him about Arnie, he literally went like this. I won't use his exact words because you can't put them front of people nicely. But he basically said, stop. He said, this is your book. You write about this guy first, and then you've got a second book to talk about the other growers and his students that are out there. So that's really what I have to thank Tom for that and his coaching, but that really locked into the idea that we really need to write the book about Arnie.
And that's what we have. We have the story about Arnie. So tell me a few things that you think people should know about this book.
First thing would be Arnie's passion for what he does, his love. I mean, Arnie started off as an engineer and then became a homemade winemaker. And a lot of the people I've met who are winemakers do start out that way. So Arnie did that for a number of years. So he had a passion and he had that scientific knowledge because being an engineer, he had that thought pattern of thinking like a scientist. I think the other thing that's important to know is that Arnie never thought of this as a business, really. He thought of it as a 50-on-year research project or experiment. And every year things would change. And he would experiment on trying to make either the grapes better, the wine better, whatever it was. And his knowledge, spreading that knowledge out to anybody who wanted to hear it, that he had learned from Dr. Frank and others when he was learning. And probably the other thing is the love he has for his family, his wine family, which is his workers, some of them who were there for 40 plus years or more, and his customers, because he treated them as though they were part of the family from day one. And every time I went up there, spent a lot of time in 4.5 years researching with Arnie, you could just see the love he had for every customer that came in. The smile would come on his face. And there wasn't a day I was up there that I didn't laugh. They have fun. They work hard, but they have fun.
That's good to know. A few things that maybe people will be surprised or shocked to learn in this book.
Well, there's quite a few things actually, but the one I think we talked about in the previous question. I think the whole thing about the experiment, because he never thought that he had mastered anything. And he originally, at one point I think I put it in the book where he told me that he thought about 20 years into this process he'd have it locked up. And 50 years later he said, we're not close yet. So I think that research aspect of him, he's an educator, a teacher. I think he learned that from Dr. Frank. Dr. Frank had he called them cooperators, but they were basically students. Arnie happened to be his favorite, as Fred Frank had told me, who wrote the foreword for the book. I was honored to have Fred do that. He's the third generation of that family. But he just has that, he wants to share that knowledge with everybody. So anybody who walks in there who wants to be a winemaker or a grower in this region, he'll just pull them up to the table, sit down and talk to them for hours and just tell them whatever they need to know and teach them throughout the years. And he's done that with many winemakers up here, and that's kind of why the region is what it is today, because of him. And then one of the stunning, funny things in the book is Arnie likes to sunbathe in the nude. He has this thing about vitamin D, and I tell the story in there one time where he was sunbathing down by the house, and the meter person came to read the meter. Happened to be a woman, and she was a little bit stunned at what she saw when she came around the corner, and there's Arnie in the buffs. But that's Arnie. He's into healthy foods and everything, so vitamin D is important.
So what do you love most about being an author now that you are an accomplished author?
It's hard to believe, for one thing, but the thing I like best is the interactions I've had at book signings with people who come up to buy the book and obviously want it signed. They have stories about Arnie and Marco that they want to share with me, and in some cases ones I didn't even know about and kind of wished I had. I would have put them in the book. But just you can tell how happy they are that the book was written about him. And it's just not about Arnie, it's about Tim Hubbard, his late partner. It's about Linda Frisbee, who was with him for 40 some years. I mean, she retired, and it wasn't too long after she retired she passed away. So they have stories. His customers have been there for, some of them 45 years, and they keep coming back. And so just to see the smiles on their faces during the book signings, I get a lot out of that.
Awesome. And for the challenges that you face to get to that point, you should enjoy those because you've earned them.
Yeah, it's fun to it's fun to see their faces and to listen to their stories.
Wonderful. So what would you say that you liked the least about this process, or what was the hardest thing for you during all of this?
The thing I liked the least it's pretty straightforward. It's the whole process of self-publishing. Now, it's a great concept. There's a lot of good things. It's great for a first-time author because most publishing houses won't look at a first-time author. But there's a lot of things you have to go through that aren't very pleasant. I'll use the word crap. They could streamline the process a little bit better and be a little bit better at holding to date commitments that they made, because as an example, we almost didn't have the book ready in time for the book signing, the release of the book, which was going to be at Founders Day at Arnie, and that's what Arnie wanted. His Founders Day. We had about 2 months built in, and the publishing house chewed it up through mistakes that they had made. So that process wasn't fun, but once the book was done, then it was all worth the effort and the pain.
All worth it in the end. So what is the one thing that you would like people to walk away after watching this interview knowing about you or the book or Arnie?
I would say the one thing would really be about Arnie and Marco itself. Arnie and his partner Tim Hubbard overcame a lot of obstacles because the critics have basically said you can't grow vinifera grapes in the United States, let alone Ohio. Dr. Frank went through this back in the 50s with Cornell University, calling him the kook up on the hill, that you can't do this. And I think Arnie proved with Dr. Frank's guidance that it can be done, that she can make some very excellent wines of the vinifera style in Ohio. And also his impact he's had on the region, not just him. Obviously there was Tony DeBevick with Dubonnet, there was the Frontes, there was lots of others, but Arnie was really the one who took Dr. Frank's concepts about growing vinifera, proving it, and doing it here in Ohio. And that has led to the next generations of winemakers such as St. Joseph's, Maple Ridge, and then the generation after that like M. Sellers, where they are growing vinifera, they're expanding the different types of varietals of vinifera. So that part of him being an educator and giving out that free knowledge and wanting to see the region grow. And one of the last questions I had asked him is where did he, what did he want people to remember him about? And the thing he wanted to remember was that he was a scientist and that he tried to prove that you could grow these grapes here, and that also that Marco was kind of a stepping stone for others, and that if that's what it ended up being, then he would be pleased.
Excellent. And I think he has a job well done, as you have, telling his story.
Yeah, the last sentence, one of the last sentences in the book talks about Dan Ross, who's known Arnie for years. I'll tell this a little bit of a story about the name, how the book became Magic in a Bottle. Arnie didn't like that title. And I bent his ear many a times trying to convince him why it was a good title. Well, Dan Ross had come in one day with his brother and some other people, and they were sat around the table in the tasting area. And I just turned on the recorder, because I recorded every conversation with him, and just let it go and just sat back and listened. And it was educational by far, and I got a lot of good information out of those discussions for 3 hours. Literally had to change the batteries in the recorder. but right at what led Arnie to finally be convinced that that was the right title is Dan made a toast, and he said, it's in the book, and I'm going to paraphrase it, but to Arnie Yester, the man who puts magic in the bottle, blah, blah, blah. And then when he said magic in the bottle, I turned to Arnie, kind of elbowed him, and he said, okay. so they took, but that was 6 months in the making to convince him that that should be the title of the book. Plus he didn't want his name in the title at all, but I had to convince him. I said, Arnie, it's about you and Marco. It's about Tim Hubbard, it's about Linda, it's about all the characters who worked there, which you could write a book about as well. But that is why that's in there as the very last part of the book, and then it shows him, giving a toast to everybody.
Awesome. What a great story.
It was a pleasure. It was a lot of fun for 4.5 years. I mean, I wasn't working. It was, I learned a lot. I did about every job in the winery, except bottling. So it's you better love it. It's a tough job.
All right. Well, I am so glad that you shared your story with us and that you wrote this story so that we could all enjoy it, because it is an excellent book, and we do have it available here at the Kingsville Public Library for you to check out. So our favorite game, it's the Lipton's line of questioning. It comes from the Inside the Actors studio with James Lipton. We're just going to do some rapid fire questions right off the cuff to see where they come from, all right?
Good luck, Cliff.
So what's your favorite word?
That's an easy one, wine.
Wine. There's a surprise. What's your least favorite word?
Vomit. I think it's a gross concept and a gross word.
I will agree. What's your favorite book?
Kate Remembered.
Kate Remembered.
It's Katharine Hepburn's autobiography.
Oh, and hopefully you check that out during Autobiography Week. What movie moved you?
This is actually an easy one. It was on Golden Pond when I was back. I was in college at the time.
That is
I'd gone through a tough time, and that movie had a positive impact. So I was
fabulous. What sound do you love?
The pop of a champagne bottle, the cork coming out.
I'm sensing a theme.
Yeah, there's a theme.
What sound do you hate?
Sirens.
Agreed.
Never liked them when I was a kid. Still don't.
What profession, other than your own, would you like to try?
If I was younger, winemaking.
Awesome.
But it's a young person's game. You gotta have a good back, and I don't have it anymore.
I can feel that. And what profession would you not like to attempt?
Funeral director.
Yeah.
Now, even though death is part of life, I just couldn't do that.
It's a tough job. Thank you, JP. And if heaven exists, what do you hope to hear God say when you stand outside the pearly gates?
Welcome.
Amen to that. And here's the toughest question of all that I ask everyone that does an interview. Would you like to come back and do this again sometime?
Absolutely.
Excellent. So again, this is Clifford Annis talking about the Arnie Esser story, Magic in a Bottle. It is available for you right here at your local Kingsville Public Library, but it's also available for purchase.
Yes, you can purchase it from me if you wish. I have a Facebook page. It's called Magic in the Bottle, so you can go out there and there's contact
Tim will put that in the
information
links.
there.
I'll make sure.
You can buy it from Amazon. You can buy it as a Kindle from Amazon as well.
Ooh.
For some people who like e-books. It's available a lot of other places, Barnes & Nobles, Books A Million, not in the stores but online. And then, of course, when we go to book signings and things, we publish them on the Facebook page, and eventually we'll be doing a talk hopefully here once things settle down.
When we get back to normal.
When we get back to normal. One thing I'd like to interject, if I may, is I need to thank my wife, Dana. As I said earlier on, I struggle with English, and I can't say that I'm the greatest writer in the world. It may seem like it from the book, but it's because of the editor, and she edited the book. My wife is a tremendous reader. English is her strength. Quick story about the editing process of the book. We turned in the first cut, or the first version of the book to the person I was, my contact with the publishing house, which overall did a very good job. And they normally, you just contact them through email, which I find kind of interesting. They don't want to talk to you, but it's only by email. But I got a phone call from her, and I was a little bit surprised, and I'm thinking, oh, what's wrong? you know. And she said, "Who edited your book?" And I said, "My wife." "Why?" She said, "It's the best blankety blank edit job I've seen in my 30 years of doing this. Does she want a job?"
Oh, wow.
And I was like, I'll ask her. but she did a really great job, so I got to give her a lot of credit. I'm great at concepts and ideas, and that's why the recorder is important. And she would then take that, "This is what you mean, right? Yes, that's it," and make those tweaks. And without her, the book would not have been what it is.
Awesome.
So I got to give her credit.
Excellent. Sounds like you got a good team.
Yeah, I don't know if she'll want to do it again, but she did a fantastic job.
Wonderful.
So I have to thank her.
Yay. Well, I'm so glad that you wrote this book. I'm glad that you took the time to share it with us today. And I look forward to seeing your second book and maybe your third and fourth, regardless of who edits them.
Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate this. It's a lot of fun.
Thank you.